What's going on, guys? Dr. Aaron Stairs here from the Performance Republic. We're here for the next video in our video series, and today we are going over the ACL. So you've probably heard of the ACL from the amount of people that tear one every year. So we're going to go over that. I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to get right into the presentation. So, screen share here. All right. So, the ACL tear pandemic, right? This is the ultimate guide of how to stay injury-free, especially when it comes to avoiding an ACL tear. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Dr. Aaron Stairs, I said before. I own the Performance Republic. We are a injury rehab and sports performance company based locally in San Antonio. We specialize in helping youth athletes get out of pain and injury and then returning back to performance. So anytime that anyone gets injured, they come to see us, or if they want to get a little stronger, faster, keep up with the competition, we've got you covered with sports performance training also. So going over the presentation today for the ACL pandemic, how to stay injury free. We're going to go learn a little bit about the ACL. We're going to learn a little bit about the life cycle of the injury, what the steps are going forward from going from injury to back to performance, the cost of an ACL injury, which will be shocking to you, so you want to stick around for that. And then at the very end, we're going to go over some prevention tips, okay? So going straight into ACL mechanism of injury, right? There's two major ways that ACL injuries happen, and one right over here, basically called a dynamic valgus injury, where basically you turn your knee in too much. Basically, this is a very rapid thing that happens, and it's very reactive when it happens, right? It's not a very slow motion turning in too far and it'll pop. This is a very quick wobble of the knee that happens when too much force is going through. This typically happens when cutting, okay? So that's one injury. The second, and actually this is a soccer player for Chelsea here. This happened a few years back, but the second mechanism of injury for an ACL is a hyperextension injury. You can see the knee is not supposed to bend back that way. That is an ACL tear right there. And so what we'll do is I'm going to show you the video of this one here. Now, if y'all are a little squeamish or don't want to see it, then I would just look away for the next 30 seconds because we're going to open up that video here and show you what that looks like. So he goes up for the jump, overshoots it, doesn't control the landing, and hyperextension ACL injury. So, like I said, that doesn't happen, doesn't just happen out of the blue, right? It's definitely something that, where's my presentation at here? So we're gonna come out of here, and then we're gonna, sorry, a little technical difficulty here. There it is. Okay. All right, so sorry about that, a little technical difficulty there. So basically, like I said, this isn't something that happens out of the ordinary, right? It's not something that just happens. it's something that is accumulation of a few different factors, right? And typically an ACL injury is a capacity injury, right? We're not strong enough to withhold the force, or it's something that we're not controlling our bodies during the game, right? You see, we saw the video on there, but also both of these injuries right here, the common mechanisms, they're both non-contact injuries, right? It's very, very um, uncommon for a contact injury to cause an ACL to tear. It's usually a non-contact injury, meaning that we can work on things like capacity and body control to limit the amount of the amount of strain and the amount of damage that can happen on the ACL. So looking at the anatomy of the knee here, so what is your ACL, right? Your ACL is a ligament. Ligaments connect bone to bone and create stability throughout the knee, right? It keeps your knee in place. So you've got 4 ligaments throughout your knee. You got your ACL right here, your PCL right behind it, and on the side, these little things right here, your MCL and your LCL. So you've got 4 ligaments throughout the knee right there that really hold that knee nice and centered in place and create some stability right there, keeping it nice and centered, okay? So down here, you'll see that the ACL is torn. That's what it will end up looking like right there whenever you have an injury, whenever you tear it. Okay? This other thing right here, this little line right here, this little kind of padding, that's called your meniscus. That's more of a shock absorber so that your bones aren't just hitting against each other every time you run or take a step, right? It's a little shock absorber. It disperses the force and makes it comfortable for you to do high-level activities like jumping, running, all that good stuff, okay? Now, majority of the time with an ACL injury, you can't, well, you're going to get an ACL injury by itself, but then there are times where the MCL or the MCL or the meniscus is also torn with it, and that just complicates the surgery. It complicates the surgery and complicates the rehab a little bit, but the time frame is the same, okay? So why does this even matter, right? Why does it matter that we're going over ACLs? Well, ACLs are so prevalent. It's a pandemic, really. There's 200,000 ACL tears that occur in the US every year. And those are tears that are repaired, right? That's not including ACL sprains that don't require surgery. So that number is probably more close to like the 500,000 range. But basically with our common knowledge right now is that 1 in 20 athletes will have a significant time loss injury per annual year. So basically what that means is if you take more than 6 months off of your sport because of an injury, that's a significant time loss injury. So there's 1 in 20 athletes will have a significant time loss injury every single year. And 53 to 67% of these are ACL related. That's why the ACL is so important, because it's so prevalent. Like we said, it's a pandemic. We're going through a pandemic right now with coronavirus, but like we said, with ACLs, like we don't get the same mention of this, and this happens all the freaking time. And a lot of the time, the amount of damage is preventable. Okay, so like I said, 200,000 ACL tears are repaired every year in the U.S. There's an average return to sport time of 9 to 12 months. So if you tear your ACL, you're out for 9 to 12 months, unfortunately, and that technically should be 2 years, because 60% of people who tear their ACL and get it repaired re-tear that same ACL 12 to 18 months out. At 24 months out or 2 years out, only less than 8% of people who tear their ACL will re-tear it after they've rehabbed it. So that's why 2 years is the typical recommendation that should be happening, but most of the time people are cleared after a year because they pass all of the return to sport. Well, they pass some of the return to sport tests. Okay, so it's a long time intensive process. And, think of how much you'd be missing if you tore your ACL because of the time it takes to rehab it. So going over the kind of the life cycle of an ACL injury. Okay, so initially you tear. You're gonna hear you may or may not hear an audible pop. You're gonna get some immediate swelling in the area, and then you're gonna have a little bit of trouble weight bearing afterwards. You're gonna be a little bit of trouble putting pressure down. It's going to be a little bit painful. You're not going to be able to carry on playing. Most people aren't. There are people who there are the anomalies that can cope, but more often than not, you're going to be out and you're going to be taken to the doc to get things checked out. Okay. Anytime you hear a pop in your knee, you want to make sure that you get things checked out, even if it's not painful, just to be safe and make sure you know exactly what's going on there. Okay. So you schedule that orthopedic surgeon visit. They do an MRI and a physical exam to assess the damage. And then they typically schedule surgery within 2 to 3 weeks of the initial injury. So from there, they basically choose one of three things. It's either what's called the graft. So basically, whenever you tear your ACL, there's two types of tears. There's a repairable or a reconstructed ACL. Repairable means that they're going to use your original ACL, because your ACL is basically just pulled the bone out, and the bone can just be put back in. Now that's a super easy process. What we're talking about for that 2-year process is what's called a reconstruction, right? That's where basically they take a different tendon from your body and put it where the ACL was. They replace the ACL with a tendon in your body. So that means they take out a tendon from either your patella, your kneecap, your quad, or your hamstring, okay? So they take one of three tendons and they basically create a little incision, and then that creates this little makeshift ACL, and then they stick that inside the knee and attach it right where that ACL is, so that it becomes an ACL and actually transforms into an ACL over time. Once you've gone through the initial surgery, you're going to be in rehab like day 1 post-op, pretty much. Day 1 to 3 is when you're going to go in for your first therapy session. And early rehab is 0 to 12 weeks. That means there's no running, there's no nothing. This is just pain relief, limiting the amount of atrophy or muscle loss in your quad, and then also regaining strength and mobility at a baseline level, okay? Making sure you're able to move and all that good stuff. So this picture right here, you can see there, he's actually contracting both sides of his leg at the same time. And you can see if you don't limit your atrophy, you don't limit the muscle loss, this is what can happen within weeks of an ACL injury, okay? So pretty scary stuff, and that's going to take a lot longer to get all of that muscle back as if we were to just prevent that from happening in the first place. So that's why it's so it's so necessary for you to go in to get rehab 1 to 2, 3 days at the most after surgery. And most surgeons will kind of agree with that and say, okay, go see your therapist within a couple of days afterwards. Here's you're going to go schedule it with them and show up for that appointment. Okay. Once we've gotten through the first 12 weeks, usually around 12 weeks is when we start a return to jogging and running process. And that return to athletic performance phase is from 3 to 7 months post-op. This is where we're getting your 100% strength back, your speed, getting you faster, getting you more resilient and game ready, and then also reintroducing non-contact sport-specific training. So that's a long process right there. That's like 4 to 5 months of just training, continuing to rehab, getting rid of any excess pain as we go along the process, and then also just kind of getting you in a better spot athletically than you were before you tore your ACL, right? Working on things like body control, where you don't have to worry about that re-tear anymore because you have full control of your body, okay? So the long process of that actually is rehab. It's done with a physical therapist, but it looks more like training. So that's why you want to make sure when you're picking a physical therapist for your rehab that they are a sports performance-based physical therapist, okay? At the Performance Public, that's exactly what we specialize in, right? Most of what we see is youth athletes and active adults trying to rehab back to an event or a sport. So you just want to make sure that the facility that you go to specializes in this, and you're not just going to a run-of-the-mill orthopedic physical therapist, because they don't have the capacity to do the athletic performance work, right? If your physical therapist office looks like a clinic and it doesn't look like a gym, it's not going to be good for you, because after that first 12 weeks, you're not going to have the benefit of being able to get under a bar and load up and do all your sports performance work that you would do in a typical strength and conditioning gym, okay? So the more that your physical therapist center resembles a gym and resembles a sport performance center, the better off you're going to be. Okay, it's just a regular rule of thumb there. Phase 4 is the return to sport phase. So that is from 8 to 12 months. And like we said before, that should technically be 24 months. But from 8 to 12 months, the next 3 or 4 months, we work on return to sport. You're cleared by both your MD and your PT to start contact. That doesn't mean you jump straight into a game situation. That means you build up to it over the course of a few months. But at least you're able to start doing contact drills. We continue developing your athletic performance. We reintroduce game situation and contact drills. And what we look for is 96% symmetry on both sides. So if you tore your right ACL, we want that right ACL, that right leg, to be 96% as strong, mobile, and reactive. So basically being able to withstand force as that left side. Okay, if you're not hitting 96% on our measures, you're not clear. The problem is that the most people who do re-tear after an ACL injury, it's because they didn't get to this 96% symmetry and they were cleared anyways by their MD or their PT. Okay, so that means that the testing wasn't good enough, right? There's a difference between a baseline test for an ACL doing its function and then your sport performance tests. These sport performance tests aren't done by everybody, but they are the number one indicator of you whether or not you're going to re-tear or not. And I would say the vast majority of people who go through ACL rehab do not meet the 96% symmetry standard that I would, and our company like holds to the standard of return to sport. Okay. Now, what we do recommend after you've gone through this 8 to 12 month period of rehab is continuing with sports performance either at that center or with a strength and conditioning coach in your area. So that's 12 months, so you can get through that full 4-month period without re-tearing. Okay, continuing to work on strength and conditioning. Okay. And the picture here is just one of the sport performance tests that we look for. We want to make sure that your single leg hop is 96% on the right compared to the left at a minimum. Right. So that's the life cycle, right? It's a long process. There's a lot that goes into it. But what's the actual cost of an ACL tear? Well, surgical cost typically runs around $12,600 to get the surgery. Now that doesn't include the $2,000 of MRI and testing that happens before the surgery. And then a $6,500 is typically what it takes to do 1 year of rehab sessions after the surgery. Now, after you've done that first year, the second year of sports performance working one-on-one with a certified strength and conditioning specialist, right? That is another $6,500 after that, right? So total time is around 2 years, which is going to be a total cost of about $28,000. Now, insurance typically covers about 50 to 60% of the overall costs minus the sports performance. So your out-of-pocket cost for an ACL tear over the course of 2 years is roughly around $16,000. And that is your responsibility, right? That is the family and individual responsibility to get that paid. Does not fall on the club. That does not fall on anybody else, right? So unfortunately, this is the risk. This is the financial damage, okay? Now, not to even mention the non-monetary costs, right? You're unable to play competitively for up to a year. You're limited capacity for that long, right? You may fall behind the competition even after you've returned to sport because it's going to take you a little while to catch up and get used to playing again at game speed. So this, depending on what your age group is, this is going to limit your chances of playing in college or at the next level. Or if you are a little bit younger or whatever, depending on what your goal is, it may limit your chances of progressing through the stages of the club, right? Getting on to the next tier of team competition, right? Going from this level of competition to the next level, going from kind of the local competition to ECNL or whatever the case may be, right? Whatever team you're trying to get on. That may limit your chances. Now, the other non-monetary cost is that there's a high re-tear rate in that first year after getting the surgery. So now, if the re-tear does happen, you got to repeat the process all over again. And that could be another year long process, right? So this potentially could span into 3 years of dedicated rehab and strength and conditioning work for your knee and ACL. So it's crazy. It's a lot more involved than we think, right? Now, what do we do about it, right? The best course of action is prevention. This is why we need to take injury prevention seriously. And what does injury prevention look like? In general, it is actually a personalized sports performance program. Most of these injuries that they occur, they're non-contact in nature, especially with the ACL. So that means it's not because someone hit you and there's nothing you could do about it. This is actually more of a yes, you can do something about it, because that non-contact injury is more of a capacity issue. It means you probably weren't strong enough, or you weren't stable enough, or you didn't have the body awareness and control to control the movement that you were doing at the time of the tear. okay? So it's a capacity issue, and you can work on capacity through sports performance training. Okay, so there are options available for you, right? You want to go see and sign up with a sports performance specialist outside of high school or club, right? You want to make sure you go with someone. Now, there is a great person in San Antonio. His name is Phil Jansen. He runs Train SA, formerly known as Explosive Sport Performance. They recently rebranded to Train SA. I would go with them, right? They're the best in town when it comes to sport performance, and that injury prevention piece. That capacity rate that capacity is going to be improved within their programming. Okay, injury prevention is built into their system. Now, we also, if you already have a sport performance or strength and conditioning coach that you're seeing, then great, right? That's where you're going to get that prevention from. But we want to make sure that you're covering all the bases when it comes to preventing ACL tears. So when it comes to doing that, you want to make sure that you download our ACL prevention guide. It's completely free, and the link will be included with this video. So you can click on that, sign up, and you can get that delivered straight to your email. Basically, it's just a series of like 5 or 6 exercises that you can do on a daily basis or kind of a weekly basis, a few times a week, to work on these things to improve all those things like body control, strength, resiliency, all that good stuff. Okay, it's not as intense as you think it would be, right? It's 6 exercises. There's 6 exercises to save your career in sports, and make sure that you don't have an ACL tear. Okay. Pretty straightforward to me, right? It's an easy thing to do. So like I said, click the link that's going to be accompanying with this video. Sign up to download that for free. It'll be sent to your inbox today. Okay, so that way you have that information. You can start implementing this today and decrease your chances of getting an ACL tear. Okay. Again, download that free sport performance program for ACL prevention from us. Other than that, if you have any questions or concerns on any of this information, then please reach out to me at any point. You can contact us here, and I'm going to kind of just write out my information. You can contact the clinic here at 210-338-0073, or you can email me at aaron@theperformancerepublic.com. Okay, that's how you get a hold of me. I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions that you may have. So, like I said, don't be shy about using that. And again, I'm here to answer any questions. So, download that link. Get started on your injury prevention, because you don't want to go through an ACL rehab. It's not a fun process. You know, you are going to return back to it stronger than you were before the tear, but it's a year to 2 years that you don't want to be wasting, especially when you only have so many years of your youth sports career. Okay, so download that, put yourself in the best position to prevent an ACL from tearing. And if you have any questions or concerns, like I said, reach out anytime. I'm Dr. Aaron Stairs from Performance Republic, Injury Rehab and Sport Performance. Thanks for listening to me, and I'll be back next week with another presentation. Thanks, guys.